Hello everyone, welcome to another video, Talking Geeky Stuff with me, Tenshi, and today is going to be another actor focus. This time is Tom Cruise and Tom Cruise movies. So I hope everyone enjoyed the intro I did. Of course, they were all from Mission Impossible. But in the comics, I have to guess which Mission Impossible films I used for that intro. So, back to Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is probably, I would say, one of the few proper movie stars in the last few years. Because if you look at movies today, it's a little bit different than in the late 80s, 90s, even to the early 2000s, where an actor, actress will sell the film. Nowadays it's a little bit different. There's more willing to give like newcomers, actors, actresses a chance. Take example like Marvel, MCU. A lot of their actors now are big, but when they first started the role, there wasn't the biggest actors, actresses. So definitely Tom Cruise is definitely one of the few movie stars left that, in my opinion, can still sell a film. So Tom Cruise is, I would say, is one of the most consistent actors out there. If you think about it, for the last 30 plus years, he's always in at least top 5, top 3 actors. He's always remained a certain level, where many actors had their highlight for a few years and then dropped to mid-tier, then went to obscurity. I can name a few. For example, Nick Cage. He had a good time in the mid-90s, and then he kind of just withered away. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Stallone, a few actors. You look at even things like Robert De Niro, Pacino. They all had their heights, and So Tom Cruise definitely in the last 30 plus years has kept a certain standard, and I think because of his versatility. I mean, he's known mostly for his kind of action adventure, even some sci-fi, but always in that kind of action adventure genre. So let's go back in time when, in the 80s, I wasn't really a big fan of his films until sometime in the mid-90s, to be honest. I think growing up in the 80s, we had films like Risky Business and Top Gun and Cocktail. They were all famous, legendary. I never really got to see them within that year. I got to see most of them maybe a couple of years afterwards, because as a young kid growing up, becoming a teenager in the late 80s to late teenager in the early 90s, I was always into that kind of like 18 certificate, in America be R-rated action, a lot of more violence. That's why I was into actors like Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, even later on like Bruce Willis, Mel Gibson, in the eastern side like Chow Yun-fat, more violent, more action type of films. And also Tom Cruise back then was more like a teenage heartthrob for young girls. Bear in mind, he is a good-looking guy. And I remember the sensation of a Cocktail, man. And of course, as a young kid, we didn't really get into that kind of young heartthrobs, We're more into the macho, big guys, Arnold, Stallone, those kind of guys, right? But what really made me notice was, I would say, probably Interview with the Vampire back in 1994. I saw that film in the cinema. I thought it really well done. He definitely stole the show. The funny story was, Anne Rice, who wrote Interview with the Vampire, didn't really like Tom Cruise as playing the vampire Lestat. She envisioned Lestat to be what's the actor's name? the android in Blade Runner, or that guy in the blonde hair. She envisioned him as Lestat, but Tom Cruise's performance really proved her wrong. She got won over. It's a shame that Interview with Vampire 2 didn't get made. There's a few problems behind the scenes. So anyway, that got me noticing Tom Cruise. I thought, wow, okay, How to Meet, he was really good. I mean, you had Brad Pitt in there, Christian Slater, Antonio Banderas, but as good as Brad Pitt was, whenever Tom Cruise was on the scene, he stole the scene. That's when I really thought, okay, not only just a good-looking guy, but he was good acting. You believed him. Then, of course, that made me kind of like slowly went back in time and watched some of his older films. By that time, I've already seen films like Top Gun, Days of Thunder. And they were not bad films, but I think, how do you say, watching Top Gun recently again a few years ago, it was good, better than when I was a kid, but still was okay. So then I went back and watched a whole bunch of his films. Some of them I liked. For example, like Risky Business was pretty cool. And then, of course, after that, in '96, where that year was great, they had a lot of big films that year. You had the first Mission Impossible. Twister came out, I think, that year as well. And I think Independence Day. So, yeah, big summer. It's a good summer. For film fans, that was a good year. So, of course, after Interview with Vampire, I was really looking forward to Mission Impossible. And the trailer was good. While I was putting that intro beginning, I was watching the original trailer for Mission Impossible. Watching it again, you realise the trailer was a spoiler. It showed a lot of the action sequences. It gave a lot of the story away. I don't think they would have done that trailer today because it gave a lot. So if you watched, if you haven't seen the first Mission Impossible, don't watch the trailer. It kind of gives a lot of the story off. So anyway, I remember watching the trailer and I thought, wow, it looks fantastic. It looks action-packed. Then, of course, when me and my friends went to watch it in cinema, come out thinking, oh, it was good. But I remember like Empire Magazine and a few other magazines at that time was giving it 5 out of 5, 5 out of 5, and 9 out of 10. So it had highly rated. But I remember coming out thinking it was good, but it wasn't a 5 out of 5 or a 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. I was thinking that time I was probably giving it maybe a 7, 7.5 out of 10. I liked it. It's very intense, very story focused. It wasn't as action packed as I expected to be, considering how the trailer was. The trailer really showed advertising in some ways, kind of false advertising sometimes. You thought it was more action. And of course, then a few years later, you had the Mission Impossible 2 with John Woo, director, fantastic film. Then, of course, watching the other films after that. So keep on watching all the Mission Impossible. Then, of course, I recently got all of them Blu-ray, the box set. And I did a couple of months ago. I did a whole binge, watched them all again. And even then, I did watch Mission Impossible when I bought the demo on DVD. So I watched Mission Impossible maybe about 10 years after the original release, or back in maybe 2000 or something. And I actually enjoyed it more second time. And watching it recently again, I watched it. I enjoyed it even more. So out of all the Mission Impossibles, I would definitely give. At the moment, I would say Fallout is my favorite one. And the one before that, Rogue Nation, because I like the new cast members. Rebecca Ferguson was a good cast. I think she was really good in it. I'm glad that what's his name, Jeremy Renner, kind of left. It kind of felt like a sore thumb. Just didn't suit the team. Maybe just me. So I definitely like the last two the most, just a little smidgen. And then I would say the weakest one is probably the third one, and then the second one, and then Ghost Protocol, which is then Mission Impossible, the first one. So definitely my favorite is the sixth. Second favorite is the fifth, Rogue Nation. So it's kind of like almost going back in time. So I'm looking forward to the new one, hopefully soon. I think it's the same director. I'm not 100% sure. I double check that. There is one film that I felt was a really good film, but it's also subtle. I liked his acting. He's very subtle acting, and Collateral. Director Michael Mann. He did one of the top directors. Michael Mann did Heat with Pacino and De Niro. So I thought his acting was that, and I liked his look. The silver hair, kind of an assassin with Jamie Foxx. I thought it was really good scene, good film. That's definitely a good film. Definitely check that out. It's very, his character is very different from his usual other characters. So and so definitely check that out. I'm hoping for a sequel for pardon me, Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, Repeat. I really enjoyed that. Loosely based on the manga. I liked it. Like Emily Blunt, great special effects. I liked the story. Hoping they do a sequel to that. It was criminally underrated. It didn't do so well in the box office, and I watched it a few times in the cinema, so I'll definitely check that out. There was one film I did go back and watched it in maybe 5-6 years later. Was Born on the 4th of July. I think that was like 88, 89, something like that. Watched that. So like I said, 5 or 6 years afterwards. Watching it, it's a good film. Tom Cruise acting was really good in it. I can't remember if he got nominated for Best Actor. Need to go and check that. But his acting was really good. There's a few scenes in it that really was quite sad. No, are sympathetic to the character. So you haven't seen Tom Cruise Born on the 4th of July, definitely check it out. It really shows his acting abilities in that. And he was pretty young then as well. And I just want to talk about some honourable mentions. So some of his honourable mentions are more his older ones that I didn't mind. I didn't watch them like within that year, but I watched them a few years afterwards, especially after, say, I think the only film I watched within that year or 2 year period was Top Gun, because I like fighter planes. But the others, I went back after watching Interview with Vampire, and I went and watched them all. I mean, some of them I was okay, nothing special. Like Cocktail, I mean, didn't really like that much. Days of Thunder, I barely remember how that went. I only watched it once. That was like 92 or something. I watched it. And Rayman, when I think Dustin Hoffman won Best Actor for that. To be honest with you, Tom Cruise, what was that, 88, I think? I think Tom Cruise showed a lot of good acting chops. And I think he got nominated for Best Supporting Role. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But anyway, thank you for listening to me, and please give this video a like if you like it, of course. And let me know, did you grow up with Tom Cruise? Are you a Tom Cruise fan? Do you think he's crazy? No, he's into Scientology. Me, personally, I don't care. That's his personal life. You can believe whatever you want to believe, as long as you're not doing anybody harm. That's fine by me. Please consider subscribing to this channel for more talking geeky stuff. And until next time, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're in the world. Goodbye.